Welcome to the Empowering Choices Parenting Podcast. My name is Joshua.
I'm Erik.
Hi, I'm Lucas.
Erik and Lucas are licensed professional counselors. We have created an online community with a website and an app full of parenting resources and courses. Most importantly, all of this is centered around a private community where you can share your struggles with us and others. If you are interested in joining, please check out our website at empoweringchoices.community or search for our app in the App Store by searching Empowering Choices. For a small monthly fee, you receive everything I talked about and you help support the show. Plus, every time someone purchases a membership, we gift a membership on your behalf to someone who otherwise could not afford it. All right, now on with today's show.
We are asking the question, is parenting hard work?
I'm imagining that a lot of people have answers to that question
Yes.
immediately when they hear it.
And a lot of thoughts. You know, a lot of thoughts around whether or not it's a hard job, if you can call it a job. I call it a job. You know, it's...
What would it be if it's not a job? Is it a hobby?
Right. You know, hobby having kids.
But if it's a job, am I getting paid?
Oh, there's a good question. Is it paid monetary? Is it paid in different ways? Is it paid, you know, in memories? Is it... Yeah, you know, how do you equate that?
And it sounds like, well, and I don't think there's a hard and fast answer to that question.
Which is why we kind of brought it up to kind of talk about it, you know, because I mean, there's a lot of parents that I've run into that, you know, it's not until you put it down in words as this is a really hard job that they went, thank you. I have been feeling that and maybe thinking I was a bad parent for feeling that, you know, but this is hard work.
Right. What did people think that they were getting into, right? What expectations do people have around parenting? And I mean, if you've ever been around a newborn infant, right, like how did they think that this was supposed to work?
Right.
They
look cute.
There was literally a nurse who was telling me the story when we were in the hospital who, it was a new mom. Kid was, you know, getting their first meal, right, off of mom, right? And the mom's like, okay, I think I'm kind of getting the hold of this. So like, I'll like do this again with him like tomorrow, right? And the nurse was just, I think her response was kind of stunned silence. And then she kind of went, well, actually, right? Because the reality is that a newborn has to eat like every 2 hours, right? Around the clock, 24 hours a day.
Right.
You're welcome. Get excited.
Right.
Right. And this mom wasn't being malicious. She just literally had no idea.
She just didn't have a clue.
No,
I mean,
zero.
There is no Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe of parenting.
Well, based on that reference, I don't know if that's the material I would want for parenting, but
just the conceptualization of a great big book that has all of the answers that you could just go to and go, oh, on page 3,772 is where you find out about infants and their feeding needs.
Wouldn't you put that at the beginning?
Well,
What's the first?
Seems pretty far in the book for that, but
I'm kind of thinking about all of the things that you need to get ready for before you have the infant. Is it the first 3,700 pages?
If we write a parenting manual, is it going to be that long?
No.
Okay. I'm just checking.
Right. I mean, it's
in the works.
It's in the works, but it's going to be way short of that. But we're talking about the Hitchhiker's Guide. You know, we're not talking about just a parenting manual. We're talking about the reference for everything. So,
okay.
You know, and kind of like I remember, you know, decades ago when I was first married, and even a little bit before that, I was like, you know, I think I want to get a dog. You know, I had my first apartment, and I was like excited. I'm going to get a dog. And the look on people's face was like, okay, that's cool, but do you have any idea how much responsibility that is? And I'm like, well, we had dogs growing up. So kind of.
So like actually kind of, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what are you talking about? Because I did not expect to look and see such a shocked face.
Is that literally what you were getting? I want a dog, and people were floored?
Yeah. They're like,
did they think that you were not responsible, Erik? Was that the problem?
you know, I have no idea. No one came out and said it.
they were thinking something.
Right. And I'm like, and there were the thoughts of, is there something wrong with me in a way? I can't handle a Foo, a Buffy, whatever, name, this little guy is going to have, only it wouldn't have been little, and maybe that's what they knew. It's going to be a bigger dog. But it's just like, people are like, well, do you understand how much food costs? Do you understand that, when you're not there, like at work, the dog has to like have something to do or someplace to be.
Like eating your couch.
Right. Yeah, which my current dog did at one point, but which is why it doesn't stay home alone anymore. But all of these questions about the responsibilities of being a dog owner. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Because when I said, oh, we're looking to have kids, all I got was, oh, that's cool.
And then crickets after that.
Right. I'm like, wait a minute. These are the same people that I said I want to have a dog.
Well, they saw how well you did with Fido,
True,
and they assumed that you were ready for the level up.
But I hadn't gotten Fido yet.
Oh, you'd never actually gotten the dog when you
Right.
decided to have kids.
Right. In fact, I was like thinking about, what it was that they had said. And I'm like, well, I am kind of really busy, and I work here and I do this over here and I've got this over there. And it kind of really scared me out of getting a dog at the time.
Oh, so these people genuinely all these questions were like, actually, maybe I'm not going to.
Right. But when I said, hey, I think I want to have a kid, they're like, hey, great. Awesome.
Because kids don't have any responsibility attached to them, and they're not going to eat your couch.
Well, and something about sit, stay, come seemed to be much more difficult than the needs of a child. And it
Did these people have their own children?
Yes. And their own dogs.
Apparently, did they find raising their own dogs to be harder than... Well, I won't ask what kind of parents they were.
Well, let's go with what kind of dog owners they were.
What kind of dog owners were they?
As I think back, not ones that committed in the beginning where you need to as a dog owner.
Like with the training and things.
With the training and things.
I think there's analogies to the rest of our subject here, but in any case.
Right. Well, and that's kind of the thing, is that they were right about there are things you need to do with the dog. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have a therapy dog here in the office, and there were things I needed to do when I first got the therapy dog, like teach him how to go potty outside.
Sure. Well, that's true for most dogs, therapy dog aside.
Right. But we don't do that with kids.
This is true. We really don't teach. I wonder if it would be better if we did. Anyway, that'll be a different podcast. How to potty train your child outside.
Right. Well, it's called an outhouse, not a bush.
I think we have modern plumbing now.
Yes.
But
Exactly, which is why we teach them how to use it. But it's a lot more work to potty train a human child, generally speaking, than it is potty training a dog, generally speaking. My dog, Indy, it didn't take that much, and he got the concept down. He's going out. We went through obedience training. Not saying we should put children through obedience training, but at the same time, parenting is a type of training to where we're teaching our children the values of ourselves, our family, our society, our culture. The boundaries. We don't want our 3-year-old to run down the highway, playing tag with cars.
they're bigger than the 3-year-old.
Much. And that's a part of the parenting, and they don't understand why they can't run down the highway touching all the cars.
Right.
Which, I had a dog like that too. She didn't understand why she just couldn't run out into the road until she got a little bit hit. And then she, because she was an escape artist, and then she didn't want to run out into the road anymore.
She had enough brain cells too. And I guess the thing I'm thinking of is we're talking about training a dog as an analogy,
right,
to training a child,
exactly,
and how much preparation we get, how much expectations we get around the two things. You think training a child is harder?
Much, a million times harder,
And I think that's the point.
Yeah.
We're trying to emphasize.
Right. And because it's called parenting.
Yes.
And parenting is a relationship that you have with your child. And you just mentioned, what's the reference? Our subconsciouses hold the reference as how we were raised. Now, if that was not a good childhood for yourself, that's a starting problem.
You're talking about the parents' childhood and then how that's going to...
Right, because the first thing you're going to think about is, well, what did my mom and dad do? Oh, yeah, we don't want to go there. Now where do we go?
Right, and so if you did not have the childhood that you want to pass along, well, then we need that manual again.
Because with a human child, you've got a 2-foot creature standing on 2 legs who can look up at a 6'8", 300+ pound muscle-bound Marine.
You're talking about yourself, right?
No. Yes, I mean yes. Special ops, no. And she can look up and go, put her hands on her hips and go, no. Nobody in that adult's world would be able to do that, except maybe, someone in their special ops company, and, they thrive on that together. But nobody else is going to be able to do that. But that 2-foot little creature there, that 6'8" Marine helped create, is going to have a struggle.
And even the most strong-willed dog is not going to come up with some of those things.
Exactly.
Or the same amount of just bald-faced defiance.
And yet we know that in the dog breed, we have strong-willed dogs that that are a challenge. They're more of a challenge than other dog breeds. And so you have to know what it is that you're biting off when you go to work with that type, of a dog.
Or at least it helps. As you said,
does.
some of those people that you knew.
Well, and it really depends on who's going to be in control, the dog or you.
Right.
Some
dogs take their people for a walk.
Right.
No.
Well, when I learned how to ride a horse, one of the first things you learn is that the horse knows automatically when the rider gets on its back who's going to be in charge. Mm-hmm. How much does this rider really know about how to ride a horse? And so...
I had that experience with a mule. It was way more experience. I was small. I was, 10 at the time. Yeah. Ever been scraped off on a tree branch onto a gravel driveway?
Well, I've had horses that attempted this.
Oh, we'll see. There you go.
Yeah. And yes, they're like, look, I don't need you on here. I got this for you. I got this down.
Right. I know how to do this thing and you're not a part of it.
Exactly. And children can do the exact same thing.
Except way better and with increasing complexity.
Oh my gosh, at young ages. And
you were telling me this story about the kids who couldn't even talk yet, who were scheming up. How did that story go?
Oh, do you have a little time?
I don't know. Maybe we do. This will be a 2-parter, right? We have a little bit of time.
This is definitely going to be a 2-parter. Okay, this is one of my favorite stories. Because when I worked as a skills trainer, and I was in a foster home of toddlers, and I was working with an older child that was there. As I'm waiting for him to get ready for us to do what we're going to do, there's 5, 6 little toddlers who are
a pack. Let's just identify them as.
Oh, that's great, because they really were a pack, as you'll see. A pack of little toddlers between the ages of 16 months and 2.5 years. And there was a set of twins, brother and sister. And the sister was the alpha of the pack. And none of these kids spoke much verbal English language.
Probably a word or two.
Yeah. Emphasis on English. They spoke a lot of gibberish, which is common for that age group, developmentally. And so one day, this particular day, they were all together in a group, and the sister looked at her twin brother, and she spoke gibberish, and then she kind of, and she was talking to her brother, and her brother's eyes went big, and he nodded yes, and then he ran off to the back bedroom. And I'm like sitting here, going, what the heck is going on? And he comes back. Now, she and the other little toddlers are just, talking, playing, looking at things. And he comes back and he has this little toy and he presents it to his sister. And she looked at it and she looked at him in the face and she shook her head no. And then she went back to the gibberish and she put in hand motions that showed size. and then she pointed back and he goes, oh, eyes went, boom again, light bulb. And he runs back in there and I'm like, what am I watching? This is going to get good. And it did. And so he comes back and he has this toy in the package. And she sees it and she looks at him. She gets this huge, pleasing smile and she nods and she accepts it from him. She's still talking gibberish and she accepts it from him and he's big and smiling. And about that time, someone else she handed it to someone else to look at. And about that time, the foster mom came in and she's like, what are you kids doing with that toy? I told you don't get to play with that. That goes up on the shelf. Who got that down? Well, the one little toddler that still had it in their hands, they just pinned it all on them. And so,
and how could you tell? How did they pin it all on the?
They all looked at that one, and no one said anything. And so the foster mom says, "You come in here with me. You're in timeout." And so put the little toddler in timeout in the other room.
You didn't feel compelled to intervene at this point.
Oh my gosh. I thought this was something that I felt had never been seen before. And I needed to be a third person research assistant observer.
Well, here we see these infants here in the wild and we see their social behaviors.
Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what it felt like.
But don't get too close. They bite.
Right. Well, now the toddler's in the other room crying in timeout.
The scapegoat.
The scapegoat. The foster mom is in a chair with an infant caring for its needs. As soon as she left the room, the girl, twin, got the group together and pointed at one of the toddlers and began speaking gibberish and then pointed at a certain way out of that room that we were in. So they're kind of in the dining room kitchen. The living room's next to it. There's 2 or 3 ways into that room. And the toddler looked at her, nodded, and went in that direction. And I'm like, well, this is fascinating. And everybody else is just sitting there, just standing there in a circle, waiting. And all of a sudden, the foster mom goes, what are you doing? I told you guys, leave that toy alone. Now you're in timeout. And so now that one is in timeout, crying with the other one, crying in the other room. She got the circle together again. She then started talking gibberish again and pointed a different direction. And that toddler nodded, and went in that direction.
Like the other way around.
The other way around. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I seeing? This is like an entire plan that's happening right here. And it's being orchestrated by an age group of human being that we have scientifically deemed have no communication skills together as a group.
These behaviors have never been observed before in the wild. I think we are seeing something entirely new.
You see why I wanted to stay narrative observer? Only I had a camera at that time, which, the cell phones didn't have cameras really at that time. But I guess I could have taken 1,000 pictures, and today we could have, put it all together in a movie or something. So then they did the exact same thing and pointed to another toddler who at this time, because, the other toddlers are now caught, and you have 3 toddlers in the other room, all crying in timeout. So we've got 3 left, the 2 twins and another one. And so she points at the other one and again talks gibberish, uses her hands, points in the opposite direction, and that toddler goes in the opposite direction. And it took a little longer before you're here. Stop. What are you doing? Now you're in timeout. And now we have a 4th toddler who's crying and in timeout. And then the 2 get together again, and the girl points at her brother, and they talk. She makes motions, and he heads out the other way. And then there's a little more time. So I can't see through the wall. There's furniture in there, but I'm picturing they're not just walking in heading over to the toy.
You're wondering if there's like that obstacle course and they're
Yes.
like figuring out a more covert way to get
Yes.
there each time. I mean,
Exactly.
maybe we're giving them too much credit. However, everything else you're describing, maybe not.
By the time it's taking them to be in trouble and caught, because now he has the toy and picked it up, and she's like, put that down. I cannot believe you guys. What are you doing? Now you're in time out. And so now you have 5 toddlers in timeout in the other room, all crying. And the sister, her only thought was, now it's my turn. And so she disappears the other way into the room. And it's like, I mean, it's like a minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes before I hear anything. And it's like the foster mom had just realized that the toy was gone. And she's like, freeze right there. Come back here with that.
She got the cop voice out at that point.
Right. And it's like, what are you doing? And how did you get that far? Because I think the little girl almost made it out of the room with the toy. Everybody else was just like let's send you in and see how this works. Let's send you in and see how this works. Let's send you in and see how this works. Okay, now I've got the plan down. And she almost makes it out. And now you've got 6 toddlers in the other room crying. And this is a human child.
Well, one of them orchestrating many of them.
Right, but the other one's following and attempting. And this is the thought process that, you're up against, a thinking being who is working on getting what they want in life, in their day, having fun, who has no idea that what it is that they're trying to do that satisfies them in that moment is dangerous, could kill them, not good for them, and so on.
Right. And your story about the toy wasn't any of those things to a strong extent, but playing tag with the cars on the highway, right, could be.
Right. Well, and the toy was a collector's item, so it was worth money.
Okay. So it wasn't a dangerous thing,
Right.
but it was a
Right.
improper.
It was a memento that had been given to the twins and was something that, was going to be there and continue to build in value, that when they got, to be teenagers or young adults, they would have something there of value that they could use possibly,
So with that much of a setup, are we just dooming parents to the whims of their highly intelligent pack of children?
Sometimes it's going to feel that way. I had a mom who called me one time and was looking for counseling. Her 4-year-old had been diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, and she didn't want to continue to go up to Portland, which is over 100 miles away, to continue to have some kind of therapy for this. And so she was asking me, would I be able to work with oppositional defiant disorder? It's rare to get that in a 4-year-old. Let's start with that.
A genuine, actual, verified, bona fide.
Yep. And so my first question when I get a diagnosis like this is, okay, let me ask you this. Are either you or dad strong-willed? And there was a little pause, and she goes, we both are. And I'm like, okay, so you double dosed her. And she laughed, and she goes, well, I think we double dosed her and her 1 year younger sister, and we're struggling with what in the world do we do, because her father was, an ex-military, and mom was very tough herself. And when these girls came into my office, you could tell, oh, yes, they have mom and dad's strong will, and that's a part of what makes the job so challenging is you've given them things, attributes of your own personalities, to which some of them are wonderful and other ones we may not like to have, wanted to really delve out to them. and some of them like a strong will. That can be a wonderful gift if you learn as a human being how to be able to manage it.
Well, and I think that's the part that we're going to have to get to is like we've just given you this giant setup of like, oh no. So is there any hope for this?
Oh, there's plenty of hope.
But we'll have to get to that next time.
Oh yeah. That's our next part.
You've been listening to the Empowering Choices Parenting Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, we would encourage you to visit our website at empoweringchoices.community. For a small monthly fee, we offer a website full of parenting courses and resources. You also have the ability to connect with parents going through the same struggles you are in a safe and private environment. Every time you purchase a membership to our site, we give away a membership to a parent in financial need. Help yourself become a better parent while helping others gain access to important parenting materials by supporting our podcast. Check us out at empoweringchoices.community or in the App Store by searching Empowering Choices. We'll see you on our next episode.